and Craig Smoak.
All right, so Paul does the top 5, and that comes up at 5:55 today. And sometimes some of the reactions from some of you, it's what are they? The guy on the right, the kid in the hat, and the old guy, the goofy old guy. That's Paul Catalina. That's Craig Smoak. And I'm David Smoak.
It's sad that they don't know the name, considering that the segment is called Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. But I will say this. On the message board today, I had to go in because there's a thread that said no Smoak show today. And I said, just my 2 cents. It's not called the Smoak Show. Sincerely, the guy on the desk who doesn't have that last name.
Who's one of the 3 co-hosts of this show that we do every afternoon between 3 and 6.
The Smoak Show was a podcast I did 2 years ago, interviewing former Baylor players.
All right, I know we got some calls to get to, but I want to get to some of you as well. Eric, for example, we won't get into the Pac-12 for the same reason they didn't want us 10 years ago. Berkeley, UCLA, very much against Baylor's discriminatory LGBT views. We either need to evolve the rest of the country really fast, or we are destined for mid-major status forever. Unfortunately, the blue hairs in charge probably won't budge. It sucks because we are the last generation to really care about it. They will be the ones to use it to ruin our power conference future. They just have added some new policies and mission statements and things like that. I know they're playing catch up. And some, hey, I saw this on the message board. There are some people that dig their heels in and go, screw trying to be woke. Screw that. Let's go back to whatever we have to be, who we want to be, who we originally were. And that's a fight between you and the university. You guys deal with that. I'm not an alum, but that's, Eric, we appreciate it. From Diane, she said, appreciate it. Here's an Iowa State fan, Chris. I feel like somebody besides Oklahoma and Texas needs to win the Big 12 title this year. Let them leave the conference with a sour taste in their mouth. Thanks to them, the Big 12 is a sinking ship. It becomes every man for himself. I hope the remaining 8 find homes in a power conference after this thing is done. Iowa State, step up. You have kind of those expectations, but to say Oklahoma may not win the Big 12 in football when they've won 14 of the last 20 and 6 in a row is going to be hard.
No, but I agree with him. It'd be a great year for that to happen.
Yep.
I put Iowa State number 1 in my poll, despite some people going like, can't believe you, how could you not put Oklahoma? Because I think Iowa State's going to be good, and it's my opinion, not yours. But, yeah, this would be a great year for that. Just like, who was it that went out on a loss in Nebraska? Well, went out on a loss
Played
in Big
Texas
12
in 09.
Yeah, and maybe there was another one perhaps that did as well. But, yeah, you would hope somebody jumps up and does that. You'd hope somebody jumps up and hands, both teams a couple of losses in conference play, if not more than that. But, obviously that'll be tough because, you're expecting Oklahoma to be very, very good. And Texas, I do think, will be tough with Sarkisian. I think the mindset there is different now than it has been. On the one hand, I'm kind of glad they're going to the SEC, because I think Sarkisian's great. So I'm like, hey, perfect timing.
We ruined this when last Thursday when he joined us on the show, first Texas coach to be on since Mac Brown was around, and we said, damn, he's kind of likable. And now we won't even see him for more than maybe a year or two. From the 2-1-0, go ahead.
I do kind of wonder now, in hindsight, knowing that Oklahoma and Texas have been planning this out for months and months now, if there's not a coincidence, we got both Lincoln Riley and Steve Sarkisian in the same day practically, and that's the last media days that we're going to see those guys. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be at next year's unless...
Well, no, next year's we might be having to go to L.A. or something.
Exactly right. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of odd how we got both of those guys on the air for the first time ever to have, like, the double whammy of the UT and the OU coach, and then it's going to be the last time that's even possible.
What if A&M goes back to the Big 12 to hold it together, be big dog? No. Hey, that would be the most gutless...
No.
Chicken blank thing you could do.
No, I would say you're in our house now, mofos.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
That's what I'm saying.
That needs to be A&M's attitude is, you're in our house now. You came crawling back to us, you whiny little weasels, and we are going to kick your ass until we can't anymore.
But then they have to go and kick their ass.
They have to. But that has to be their attitude. Look, okay, when you go to the gym, you don't necessarily think you're going to bench 225, 15, 20 times, but you have to think that you can.
No, I can't.
I
can't bench it once.
But you have to think that it's possible. Okay. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. Join the American Conference with the emojis of laughing from the 979. That could be, who knows, 254. One stand-up call by UT to ESPN would change the conversation. That's not just me saying that. I've heard that from a ton of university peeps. They might even turn the tide and get Missouri, Nebraska, Arkansas back.
No.
That's not going to happen. Nebraska's making $50 million a year, even though they're not very good in football. And they're not coming back here. No one's coming back here unless it just something changes where it's bizarre.
And the thing about the ESPN side of it as well is ESPN was a part of the orchestration of this entire thing. They were involved, in the move of Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. If anybody knew that this was going on, it was ESPN. So the last thing they're going to do is see the cash cow that is Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC, the brand that they've been propping up. And look, the SEC has given them tons of gasoline and ammunition to make ESPN prop them up with the national titles and the teams constantly in the mix for the title. But ESPN, I would imagine, was instrumental in this as any other party was. So I don't think that their idea would be to try and put the rabbit back in the hat.
From the 256, Chad from Alabama. I don't know if that means Roll Tide, or is that Auburn or War Eagle? I know you'll let me know. Chad, how does this affect the Big 12 SEC Challenge in men's basketball? Not this year.
Yeah.
But there will be impact because this will impact more than just football. That's what we're talking about. It's going to impact sports across the board.
Yeah, that'll just depend on, what happens to the Big 12. If they, because they're already outnumbered as it is by 4 teams with the Big 12 SEC Challenge anyways. So there's 4 SEC teams that aren't even involved in it. So if everybody goes the 16-team super conference route, and let's say that Baylor, Tech, TCU, and one other whose name's escaping me, Oklahoma State, were to go to the Pac-12, make the Pac-16. Hey, Pac-16, SEC 16 challenge. You could do it that way. I mean, there's a lot of different options, but you don't have to have the exact same numbers. You could still continue it even with the 8 teams, I suppose, although that wouldn't be very interesting.
All right, it's 4:29. We will run it all the way up until 6 o'clock today with your text calls and much, much more. SicEm365 Radio.
By the way, tweet sent to us from Colt, but by Patrick Svitek, who is the primary political correspondent for the Texas Tribune. Burrows, Bonin, Green, Guerin, and Leach announced a bill to require legislative approval of conference alignment, saying they've got over 30 initial co-authors. Also, the Senate. A companion legislation is coming from Birdwell, Perry, Powell, and Kolkhorst. So the Texas legislature is trying to get involved in this, although I can't imagine that the University of Texas in Austin doesn't have enough sway of their own people elected to office that even if this bill passes, the legislature would go, all right, well, they can go.
Yeah, basic gist of this is Chairman Burrows saying, that's why I'm joining my fellow House Chairman and Senators Birdwell, Kolkhorst, in authoring a bill to require legislative approval before an institution can take such action. The exceptionalism of the great state of Texas must not be left in the hands of a few, but is a responsibility to be shared by all, and lots of political lingo and whatnot. But Leach says decisions relating to major conference realignments potentially have monumental impacts on the entire state of Texas for some communities and business owners. And certainly for our universities, the effects could be devastating. So, yeah, they want to be involved. Imagine that, politicians in the decision-making process. And I get why they're intervening somewhat. I think it's far too little, far too late. But it took 2 days for them to introduce a bill on this, and it took the whole session last time to vote to even try to fix the grid. Good job, guys. Yeah.
Hey,
priorities, baby.
Paul, what's
Priorities.
more important?
Electricity.
Yeah. Yes.
979 merge the remaining 8 teams with another conference. If so, which one? I don't think the one conference is going to eat up and add all 8, but that's out there. And the 256 goes Roll Tide. Nervous about Alabama playing Baylor in the challenge in basketball this year.
I think that'll be a great game. Should be fun. I like the SEC Big 12 challenge. That will be one negative to this all occurring. Will be the likelihood that goes to the wayside. But like we just said a couple questions ago, maybe that becomes the Pac-16 versus the SEC 16 challenge. So there's ways to still make that happen. But yeah, that game should be fun. And who the heck knows where everybody's going to land at this point? Everybody's just, the boat's sinking. It's got Big 12 written across the side of it in big type letters, and you got some Cyclones and some Bears and some Frogs, and they're all in their little lifeboats, and they're just hoping for a boat named the ACC or the boat named the Pac-12 to come along and throw them out a hand to save them. But, yeah, right now there's just a lot of doggy paddling going on.
From Andrew Baker, Paul,
That doesn't matter because the Dems are still in D.C. That's probably true.
Yeah. Texas is scheduled to play Alabama, which they are in 22 and 23. Who from the former Big 12 replaces that game? And my answer to him was the middle finger. I don't know who's going to replace that game. And who knows if that's a non-conference game still. Although you would think by then everything is out the window. So I don't know.
I think the non-conference games are the least of anybody's concerns at this point in time, at least if they're more than a year or two out, because you're looking at a situation where the Big 12 schedule this year is going to go on along as it was planned to, but beyond that, we have no idea. I think the likelihood is that Texas and Oklahoma bite the bullet, or they are just hinging their bets on the Big 12 fracturing and breaking apart, so therefore they don't have to pay any money. They jump right into the mix and just, take a little while to get all the logos updated and whatnot around the stadiums and facilities. But other than that, they'd be geared up to go.
I would think the only money they would have to pay is some sort of you broke the contract first fee.
Right,
that's what they negotiate. So that you're paying essentially for everybody else to move.
I was told this earlier today from somebody who would know that when I asked about the grant of rights, we're going to be very careful about how we do anything, because that $200 million, or that's the estimate, $150 million, that's about the only thing positive that could have come out of this any particular way, shape, or form. From Paul, this is a great show, and I'm loving the chat conversation as well. That's from Joey, excuse me. I see way that Texas and Oklahoma left, but the way they did it, no excuse for that. That's from Paul.
Yeah, and I don't think that, if there's any Oklahoma or Texas fan out there saying we didn't do anything wrong, that's BS, and that's BS. But that's fine, though. You ultimately got what you wanted, so, it's nothing wrong in admitting on the way out that, it was a little bit underhanded and dirty the way it happened. And I go back to mainly the fact that you were with all of these people last week, and at any point in time, something could have been said. And apparently you've been having these talks for months, and all the while your commissioner, like some bozo, has been up there talking about the strength of the conference. And clearly, based on our conversations with Baylor Athletic Director Mack Rhoades, he's been of the belief this entire time that the Big 12 was finally shored up, that they were finally moving forward, and he was played a fool. So 8 commissioners or athletic directors, 8 school presidents, and the Big 12 commissioner himself were all played for fools. And so they have a right to be upset. But I'll say what I said yesterday as far as Oklahoma and Texas goes. Was it underhanded? Was it backdoor? Was it sneaky, sleazy, whatever you want to call it? Sure it was, but it's also business, and they made a move that everybody else would make if they had the opportunity to. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be mad at them or pissed or whatever, but I'm just saying that, they made the move that was best for them, and now these other 8 schools have to do that too.
All right, from the 254, and I knew this was going to happen. We had this question from somebody else earlier. Was Kim Mulkey lucky or prescient? If anyone wants to think this was something that led to that leaving to LSU, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think
she walks on water. Go ahead.
I think it's just a question, really. I don't think she was prescient. She didn't have a choice.
I think she's lucky.
Yeah, I think she's lucky, to answer your question. She definitely had no idea that this was in the works. And if you knew about the situation, I don't know how much she really had to choose in the long run, quite frankly. So, yeah, it really had nothing to do with that. But I'm sure she'll I'm sure she finds it very interesting that she had no problem beating Texas and Oklahoma all the time, so that probably doesn't bother her too much. But now Vic Schaefer would be back in the SEC, so he'd be facing his old team, Mississippi State, and also you'd have Baylor, Texas once again. So, yeah, it just makes the SEC tougher in women's basketball.
Oh, my God.
His old buddy Gary Blair.
You just added a 3-time national champion. Again, Blair, who coached Kim Mulkey when she was at La Tech, along with Barmore and Sonia Hogue. And then you have Schaefer, who had a great run at Mississippi State, was on the team as a staff member to Gary Blair when they upset Brittany Griner and Baylor and Kim Mulkey in 2012 to win eventually the national title. So there's also so many tie-ins, and you also know that South Carolina is really, really good as well.
Let's take one call and then
Georgia.
Break. Yeah.
And Georgia.
Yeah. T-Rex, you're on SicEm365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey guys, it's a beautiful Friday afternoon because the pastures are always greener on the other side. I don't know about y'all, but I've been hedging my bets for trips to California or the East Coast for a while. Every away game I went to in the Big 12, that meant flight points. So, hey, wherever we land, it doesn't matter as long as you know what you're doing. We're going to be at the games anyway, but hey, man, I got kind of tired of going to Ames, Iowa tired of going to Manhattan, Kansas. Let's change it up. How about Miami? How about, well, I don't really want to go to USC because that's in the middle of the hood, but, you know, I think I watched enough NWA music videos to get by. Man, listen, guys, Craig, I think you have a good point. You said, like, anybody would do it. You're right. And I thought about this yesterday. I said, man, how awesome would it be if Baylor was good enough, you know, if we had the prestige, sorry, my GPS going off, had the prestige to make a move like this. I wish that we were in that position, and I would applaud it all day long, and every other Baylor fan would applaud it if we did the same thing. It sucks when you're on the other side of it, but hey, let's take a step back and realize if we were in that position, then we'd be partying and popping champagne bottles. But I digress. All I know is it's a beautiful day outside. The sky hasn't fallen yet. We're going to be okay. We got good leadership, you know, whether we land in the ACC, the Pac-12, the Super 16, whatever it is. Hey, we're going to win. We got the facilities, we got the coaching, we got the administration, we got the donors. We're going to be okay when the dust settles. Just strap on in and start building those flight points because you're going to need it to afford those road trips. SicEm Bears, hope you have a great day. And one last thing, Smokey, it was great. I think it was last week, meeting your daughter. Still don't think it's your daughter. SicEm Bears.
That's Craig's sister, too, by the way. Yeah. T-Rex. Scared the hell out of me with you were going there. I didn't know if we're going to have to put you in the same land of Bigfoot. I wasn't sure.
He's a married man now.
Yeah.
We can't go just off saying something like that.
Jennifer actually just ruined everybody's next few months when she said, "Oh, you're T-Rex." Oh, my God, when she did that. That was not good at all. All right, when we come back, it's 4:39, SicEm365 Radio. We continue in a moment.